I spent years building a life with my partner, only to realize I was competing with her entire friend group for attention. The breaking point came when our anniversary was ignored, and that's when I finally decided I couldn't stay silent anymore. I never thought I'd reach a point where I'd question whether my relationship even mattered. My partner and I had been together for over 2 years, moved in together 6 months ago, and shared what I thought was a solid, loving connection. But lately, it felt like I was dating a whole group instead of just one person. She had a close-knit circle of friends, people she called her squad, and at first I thought it was sweet. They did everything together, constant group chats, themed parties, weekend trips. I didn't mind, or at least I tried not to. But over time, it started to feel like I was invisible. Birthdays, anniversaries, even family milestones, everything seemed to take a back seat to their plans. The breaking point came one evening when I tried to surprise her for our anniversary. I had planned a special night, something just for us, something meaningful. But when I told her, she hesitated, then said she couldn't come because of the squad. The words hit me harder than I expected. That night, I realized I had a choice to make: stay in a relationship where I felt like an afterthought, or finally put myself first. We'd been together for over 2 years, and I thought we had something real. We moved in together 6 months ago, split the bills, shared chores, even cooked meals as a team. I thought I understood the rhythm of our life until the cracks started showing. It wasn't dramatic at first. Small things, like her texting her friends during dinner or scrolling Instagram while I tried to talk about my day. I tried to brush it off. She's just really close with them, I told myself. But then it started to pile up. Every weekend was a squad event. Every celebration somehow involved them. My birthday dinner, she had a last-minute brunch with her friends. My parents' anniversary, too busy because someone needed a ride to a concert. Even minor plans became impossible if they conflicted with the squad's schedule. I tried talking to her. I get it, you love your friends, I said one evening. But sometimes I just need you to be here with me, fully. She smiled, nodded, and promised she'd do better, but the pattern repeated immediately. The real test came on our 2-year anniversary. I'd spent weeks planning it, a reservation at the place where we'd had our first real date, tickets to a band she'd been obsessed with, a handwritten note to tell her how much she meant to me. I imagined the look on her face, the little smile she always gave when something caught her by surprise. I imagined the warmth of just being together. When I told her, I saw her face change instantly. The excitement faded like someone had flipped a switch. "Oh, babe," she said slowly. "That's the same night as Tasha's birthday pregame. I really can't miss it." I felt the ground shift under me. "Could you maybe ask them to move it to Friday or Sunday?" I asked, trying to reason. She shook her head before I even finished. "No, Ethan, you don't understand. This is the only night everyone can make it. Adrian has a work thing Sunday. Chloe's been stressed with her new job. Finn just broke up with someone. We all need this night." Her words weren't just dismissive, they were a justification. Every syllable made me feel smaller, less important. Love could wait. Friendship couldn't. They were here before me. They'd be here after me. I realized, in that moment, that our anniversary, the one night of the year that should have been just about us, wasn't special to her. I was already penciled in somewhere between her next group vacation and someone's birthday party. And it wasn't the first time. Graduation, family events, even when my mom had surgery, she always found a way to choose the squad over me. Last month, she called me at 2 a.m. to pick her up from a bar across town because Finn had been drinking. When I got there, she barely acknowledged me, taking selfies with everyone while I sat silently in the passenger seat, feeling more like a taxi driver than a partner. It hurt, but it also angered me. The conversations we had about balance never stuck. She accused me of being controlling, of trying to isolate her from her friends, even when all I wanted was to feel like a priority once in a while. I began spending more time away from the apartment. Coffee shops became my refuge. I scrolled listings for one-bedroom apartments, realizing that maybe I didn't need to live like this. Half in a relationship, half in someone else's social life. Could I really spend years feeling like I came? 6th, I kept hoping she'd notice, that she'd make the choice herself. But every time, the same cycle repeated. Promises made, then broken. Excuses delivered like rehearsed lines. And me, left feeling invisible, standing in my own home as if I were a guest in someone else's life. Finally, the night after our anniversary, I sat alone and made the decision. It wasn't impulsive. It wasn't anger. It was clarity. I needed to reclaim my life, my time, my sense of being wanted by someone I loved. I drafted a plan quietly. Apartment, logistics, timing. Every detail accounted for so it wouldn't erupt into a confrontation. I wanted to leave without chaos, without blame, but with truth. That week, every moment with her felt like a test. Would she notice? Would she try to change? Or would she, as always, choose the squad? I started packing small things while she was out. Just a shirt here, a book there, testing the waters of independence I hadn't realized I craved. By the time she noticed, the apartment felt emptier, and so did I. The realization hit me fully. I could love someone. I could care deeply. immediately. But if my presence wasn't valued, truly valued, it didn't matter how many years we spent together. Love without reciprocity was hollow. And that's when I knew finally the choice was mine. Stay and keep competing for attention, or leave and put myself first. After days of quiet planning, I finally took the leap. I submitted a rental application for a one-bedroom apartment about 20 minutes away. Affordable, private, and mine. For the first time in months, I felt a small thrill of freedom, the kind you only notice after months of suffocating routine. I started moving my things gradually. Small items first. Books, kitchenware, anything that wouldn't be immediately noticed. Her schedule worked in my favor. Every night she went out with the squad. Game nights, dinners, random meetups. I had free windows to quietly reclaim my life. By the end of the week, about 80% of my belongings were already in my new apartment. The night she discovered what I'd done was surreal. She came home around midnight, the group conspicuously absent. She opened the door and froze. The gaming setup was gone. The dresser I had spent hours organizing was half empty. "Ethan, what's happening here?" Her voice cracked slightly. I met her gaze calmly, holding the letter I had written. It explained everything. How I needed to feel valued, how I couldn't continue being treated like an option, and how I needed a partner who prioritized our relationship. I tried to keep my voice steady, but the words carried all the exhaustion, all the frustration, all the disappointment I'd felt for months. She read it once, then slowly again. Her eyes widened as if she were seeing me, really seeing me, for the first time. "You're seriously leaving? Because I have friends?" she whispered. I nodded. "It's not about you having friends. It's about feeling like I'm part of your life, not someone who can be scheduled around brunch plans and late-night bar trips." She blinked, stunned. "So, this is it?" "Yes," I said simply. "I can't keep being an afterthought. I tried to communicate. I tried to compromise, and I can't do it anymore." Her reaction surprised me. She didn't yell, she didn't beg. Instead, she started pacing, listing every memory we'd shared. Concerts, dinners, movie nights. But even then, she somehow worked the squad into the conversation. "Remember when we ran into Chloe and Adrian at that show?" she asked. "Or the time we cooked dinner for everyone?" I realized something important. Even in her memories, the group overshadowed us. It wasn't just our present, it was her lens on the past, the only way she understood connection. I let her talk, and eventually, I left the apartment, leaving my key on the counter. I moved the rest of my things over the weekend, careful to avoid conflict, careful to protect my own peace. By Saturday morning, I was sitting in my new apartment, finally breathing. The weight of months of frustration was lifting. Then my phone started blowing up. Calls, texts, messages, not just from her, but from the squad. Chloe, Tasha, Adrian, Finn, they all wanted to settle this like adults. The messages escalated quickly. Chloe said I was breaking up the family. Finn accused me of being immature. Adrian suggested a meeting to discuss things rationally. Tasha sent long paragraphs explaining how devastated they all were. And through it all, I felt a strange mix of disbelief and amusement. These were people I barely knew, yet suddenly they had the authority to judge my life decisions. It reached a peak, Monday night. I returned home to find all five standing outside my building. Marissa in front, the squad arrayed behind her like some bizarre intervention. "We need to settle this now," she shouted. "You can't just disappear and ignore everyone. We're all adults." I told them calmly there was nothing to settle. I had made my decision. I would not be changing my mind. That's when Finn stepped forward. "You're being selfish. Do you know how much you're hurting her? How much you're hurting all of us?" I looked at him, incredulous. "I'm hurting people I barely know because I chose to leave a relationship where I wasn't valued." Apparently, dating me had made me part of their so-called family system. Leaving me was akin to abandoning all of them. Chloe was crying. Adrian was trying to mediate. Tasha was recording everything. Marissa nodded along as if this were perfectly normal. I gave them 30 seconds to leave before calling building security. They hesitated, but when security arrived, they finally left. Marissa shouted that it wasn't over, but for the first time, I felt the clarity I had been chasing. The calls and texts eventually slowed. Life, finally, felt like it could move forward without constant chaos. It was shocking, surreal, even absurd at times. Who brings their entire friend group to confront someone over a breakup? But I also realized something vital. I had taken back control of my life. I had chosen myself, my peace, and my future. And that decision, as chaotic as the aftermath was the first real step toward happiness I had felt in months. The days after the confrontation were surprisingly calm. No late-night texts, no calls. From the squad, just silence. And for the first time in months, it felt peaceful. I could breathe. I could think. I realized how much energy I had spent trying to compete for someone's attention that was never fully mine. I started settling into my new apartment. Little routines became milestones. Making coffee without interruptions. Cooking meals just the way I liked. Even rearranging furniture to suit my own taste. It was mundane, but it felt like freedom. And for the first time in a long while, I could focus on relationships that actually mattered, friends who treated me as a priority, co-workers who valued my time, and the quiet moments with myself I had neglected for so long. Then, out of the blue, I received a text from her, Marissa. After weeks of silence, she wanted to meet for coffee. "I know things ended badly," she wrote, "but maybe we could talk. I feel like we both said things we didn't mean." My chest tightened. After everything, why now? I didn't reply immediately. I thought about the months of feeling invisible, of standing in my own apartment while she lived in a world where I was always secondary. She sent another message the next day, longer this time. "I've been thinking a lot," she said. "I realize now that I didn't balance my time properly. I was using my friends to avoid real intimacy. I see it now, and I understand what you needed." I read it twice. The words were almost convincing, honest, self-reflective. But I had learned the hard way that good intentions weren't enough. I had spent 2 years trying to make her understand, explaining calmly, listening patiently, hoping she would change. She hadn't. Not then. Why would I go back now? A few days later, I ran into her unexpectedly at a restaurant with some of the squad. I froze for a second, my new partner Sarah noticing my tension. Marissa saw me and waved, but there was no confrontation, no shouting. She seemed smaller somehow, quieter, tired, maybe older, more aware. She spoke briefly to a couple of the group members, then moved on. I felt no obligation to react, no pull to revisit the past I had finally left behind. It was in that moment I realized how much I had grown. I didn't feel regret. I didn't feel anger. I felt relief and clarity. My new relationship with Sarah was simple, unforced. We spent time together without constant interruptions, without a third party dictating the flow of our lives. Conversations were meaningful. Shared experiences were shared just between us, not filtered through a social network or a squad dynamic. It was normal, and it felt extraordinary. I heard later, through mutual friends, that the squad was slowly unraveling. Adrian committed fully to his fiancée, spending less time in the group chat and more time nurturing his relationship. Chloe relocated for a promotion, finding friends through work. Tasha and Finn began dating seriously, but they too wanted space from the old dynamics. Marissa, left trying to hold it all together, seemed to struggle with the reality that people grow, priorities shift, and you can't force others to stay in patterns that no longer fit their lives. I thought about all the anniversaries, the birthdays, the times I had been invisible, and I realized something crucial. It wasn't about her or her friends. It was about the fact that I had finally prioritized myself. I had recognized my worth and acted on it. That realization, finally stepping out of a cycle that diminished me, was empowering in a way I can't describe fully. When Marissa reached out again, I stayed silent. I didn't need validation from someone who hadn't seen my value for 2 years. I didn't need explanations, coffee dates, or reconciliation. I had learned the difference between a partner who wants to be with you and someone who fits you around everything else in their life. I deserved the first. Sarah and I continued building something simple and steady. Last weekend, we went to a small concert with friends I hadn't seen in years. No schedule conflicts, no competition for attention. Just laughter, music, and connection. It felt revolutionary after months of constant compromise. In the end, I learned a lesson worth every ounce of frustration. Love should not make you feel like a second choice. Relationships require mutual investment, understanding, and the willingness to prioritize each other. If that's missing, no matter how much you care, you can't thrive. Walking away wasn't easy, but it was necessary. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. If there's one thing this story teaches, it's that your time, your energy, and your heart are too valuable to be treated as optional. Relationships, romantic, friendships, family, should make you feel seen, appreciated, and prioritized. When that isn't happening, staying silent or hoping someone will change can cost you more than you realize. I share this story not to shame anyone, but to remind you that walking away isn't always a sign of weakness. It's a choice to honor yourself. It's about creating space for connections that lift you up, that make you feel truly understood. Life is too short to compete for love or attention that should already be freely given. If you've ever felt invisible, overlooked, or like you're constantly coming in second, remember, your feelings are valid, and it's okay to take steps to protect your own well-being. Sometimes, the most courageous thing you can do is to step away and give yourself the chance to grow, heal, and build something better. And if this story resonated with you, there's more waiting. Stories of people navigating real-life challenges, of families, friendships, and relationships that test us in unexpected ways. These are the moments that remind us we're not alone. So, don't just watch, engage. Comment your thoughts, share your experiences, and hit subscribe to hear more stories like this. Every story is a chance to reflect, to learn, and to grow together.